about youth important time for that. We've got some big announcements and some seriously VIP guests. So let's get going. My name is Naomi, and I am Sunrise Movement's training director. And before I was an organizer, I was studying to be a scientist in college. And that was my life trajectory. But by 2018, my junior year, Hurricane Maria devastated the Caribbean and hit Guadeloupe, the Caribbean island where my cousins, uncles, and aunts live. And I couldn't just sit around anymore writing up research papers. I couldn't sit around as the Trump administration let thousands of Black and brown folks die in the Caribbean after Hurricane Maria. I couldn't ignore the kids who drank poisonous water full of lead. I couldn't look away as my darker skinned brother got harassed by police in Milwaukee and Chicago. I had to do something. So in 2018, I joined the Sunrise Movement and started organizing my campus and brought in hundreds into the fight for a more just society, for the Green New Deal. And that's why I voted for Bernie Sanders twice, and I haven't stopped since. On tonight's call, we're going to talk about this unique moment in history that we're all in together right now. We're going to talk about coronavirus, the movements for Black lives, the upcoming election, and what it all means for our futures. We're going to talk about Sunrise Movement and talk about how if you're a young person who supported Bernie, or a young person who wants to win a Green New Deal and build a more just society, or if you're a young person who wants to help transform our country, then we want you to join us. We're going to invite you to take action with us tonight and commit to transforming our country. Then we're going to hear from our two VIP guests, Bernie Sanders and Cori Bush, whoop, whoop, and then we'll wrap up with next steps. Does that sound good? Great. Drop it in the chat if it sounds good, maybe a smiley face. So let's talk about our main man, Bernie Sanders. This guy is truly a once-in-a-lifetime candidate. We've never seen anyone like Bernie Sanders. He spoke to our fears and our ambitions. He spoke to our hopes and dreams. And he inspired an entire generation to care about politics, usually for the first time in our lives. He told everyday people like us that we deserve more than what we get in America today. He told us that if we believed in it, and if we organized for it, we could win bold, visionary policy changes. He built a multiracial working class movement. And that's why he had exponentially more support from us, students and young people, than any other candidate. That's why the Students for Bernie program was the largest student organizing program in presidential campaign history. And that's why any of you are even on this call tonight. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for continuing your fight. And the work that you and thousands of other young people did to support Bernie's campaign was historic. We powered the political revolution. But, when Bernie ended his campaign for president, an entire generation was disappointed. If you're like me, you felt sad, confused, and like our future had never been more unclear. The coronavirus pandemic is shedding a harsh light on how broken our dysfunctional healthcare system is. Students in the class of 2020 graduated with crushing amounts of debt into an economy with unemployment rates at their highest since the Great Depression. And on top of all of that, the climate crisis looms. It's the number one example of how past generations have failed us and how we will have to deal with the consequences. Then Breonna Taylor was murdered by police. George Floyd was murdered by police, and it hurt. I didn't even watch the video of George Floyd because I couldn't stand to see another Black person be killed at the hands of police. But unlike before, this time was different. Millions of young people were out in the streets leading the righteous upswell of collective struggle erupting across the country. Students and young people, many of whom are on this call tonight, were in the streets saying enough is enough. Students and young people were proving, as we did during the civil rights era and every successful social movement in history, that we have unparalleled moral clarity and that we will not let our communities, our planet, and our futures be destroyed by police brutality, racism, or corporate greed. So y'all, this is still our moment. Bernie's campaign may be over, but he inspired our generation to action. Build thanks to him isn't going anywhere as long as we channel it in the right direction. And that's where Sunrise comes in. All right, here we go. We are building an army of young people to create millions of good jobs and stop climate change in the process. That's our mission. In other words, We are continuing the Bernie Sanders legacy, and we want you to join us. In 2020, young people have already changed this country forever. And in 2021, we're going to make our ideas the law of the land and cement these changes for generations to come. But you may be wondering, how are we going to do that? Well, if we want to make lasting institutional change, we'll need political candidates that can be moved on our vision. Some of the biggest institutional victories that have happened in this nation have been done under moderate candidates. The Civil Rights Act, that legislated justice for millions of Black lives across the nation, was passed under a moderate candidate, Lyndon B. Johnson. The New Deal legislation that gave countless Americans Social Security and pensions, which we still benefit from today, were passed by a moderate who did not believe in big government spending, FDR. Now, we know that every sweeping piece of legislation that moves us towards liberation and dignity has been won by movements. But we need politicians who can be moved on this vision to institute those changes. So we're not only fighting to defeat Trump, we're fighting for a political terrain that can have us build the world we deserve, that we know we deserve. So yeah, sure, that means we can't let Trump win. But we also can't let moderate Democrats get away with watered down policies that maintain all the injustices of our society and leave Black and brown and working class people behind. So even though Bernie might be out of the race, it's our job to make sure his policy and visions continue. We must continue the momentum and build the movement of movements for a just society. It won't be easy, like y'all know that, because people in power, a lot of people in power right now today, they don't want justice for millions of Americans in this country, and they will do everything in their power to make us lose. And after the election, after we win, they'll do everything they can to suppress our mobilization. They're going to bring the police in full force, and we have to prepare for that, because that's what justice demands, and that's what we'll need to do to win a Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and our vision for the future. But you might know the saying about fighting entrenched power. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Right now, we're in the fighting phase, y'all. Victory and justice are so close, and we cannot give up now. So we will need to work to get people in the streets and voting. We need to organize our universities, our high schools, our communities, our friends and family. We must bring millions of people into our vision for a better society and continue the political revolution. And every single person on this call has the power to make this vision a reality. That's why this year, Sunrise is launching the Wide Awake Leadership Program to start the hard work of winning and institutionalizing our wins for the decade to come. As part of the program, you'll have a coach, you'll have trainings, and you'll be given the skills to win for the long haul. If you've never done this before, we need you to sign up right now. If you've done something like this before, we need you to sign up right now. If you're nervous, that's totally okay. I get it. Like, confronting the political and corporate elite will require all of us to step out of our comfort zones. And yeah, in the program, we're going to have dedicated programs for high school students, HBCU students, college students, Latinx folks, and any young person ready to organize their community. You'll be joined by thousands of other young people who know what's at stake and are ready to fight for a better world. So if y'all are excited about that, I hope y'all are excited about that. I'm excited about that. I'm going to drop the link to sign up for y'all to sign up right in the chat. So click on that link, sunrisemovement.org/wideawake, sign up and invite 3 of your friends too. Like, we'll need as many young people as we can to win a more just society. By signing up and inviting 3 friends to join the program, you're building up our movement of movements. All right, I'll give y'all like a second, a little second to click on that link, let it load in your tab. All right, cool. Now, I'm about to pass it over to our guest of honor, who's inspired us to join the political revolution. The candidate that I voted for twice, and I'd do it a 3rd time if I could, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hello, Naomi, and everybody on board who is part of this conference. And let me thank the Sunrise Movement for the extraordinary work that you guys are doing. Thank you. The truth is that my generation have left you a planet that is becoming increasingly unhealthy and uninhabitable. And it is your generation that is going to save us all. So I just want to thank you for the great work that you are doing. We are living, as I think all of you know, in an unprecedented moment in American history. There's never been a moment like this, ever. We're looking at a pandemic which has claimed 140,000 lives already, and it is getting worse. We're looking at an economic meltdown which has cost us tens of millions of jobs unless we change things, and together we will change things. It's going to be harder for you guys to get decent jobs when you get out of school, and that's wrong. We are living in a moment where millions of people are standing up to fight systemic racism in all of its forms, and police brutality and police murders. And then on top of all of that, you got a president who's clearly unfit for the job. And then why don't we throw in the issue that brings us all together is that the scientists are telling us that if we don't get our act together with regard to climate change, we don't know what kind of planet your kids and grandchildren are going to be living in. But we do know that within the next few years, there will be irreparable, underlying irreparable damage to this planet. Last 5 years, 5 warmest years on record. A few weeks ago in Siberia, the coldest region on Earth, temperature reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Report that just came out today that says everything being equal, if we don't transform our energy system, we're going to be looking at significant increases in temperature in years to come. So what does that mean? What it means, bottom line, is that we need a political revolution in every sense of the word. We need to fight for an economy that works for working people, not just the very wealthy, and we must end the disgrace of an unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality. Does anybody think it makes sense? 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America? Anybody think it makes sense that during this pandemic, when millions of people are struggling to put food on the table, worried about getting evicted from their homes, richest people in this country are becoming phenomenally richer? People like Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon, the Walton family, making billions and billions of dollars during the pandemic. That's got to end. Does anybody think it makes sense that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right, while we're spending twice as much per person on healthcare as the people of any other country? You guys, the younger generation, are the future of America. You should not have to go deeply into debt in order to get a higher education. And that is why we're going to continue the fight to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and cancel all student debt. Does anybody think it makes sense that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth because we have a racist and broken criminal justice system? Or we have an incredibly unjust immigration system in which so many people are living in fear of deportation today, which is why we're going to move toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. So what all of this is about is growing a progressive movement that understands that we need an economy that works for all, not the few, that we need an educational system which encourages and makes it possible to all people to get the quality education that they need, that we have a healthcare system in which healthcare is a human right, not a privilege, and that we move forward with a Green New Deal to create millions and millions of good paying jobs, including jobs that I want your generation to have, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Now, to make any of these things happen, what we have got to do is take on very powerful special interests, and that is the fossil fuel industry, that is the healthcare industry, that is the military industrial complex, that's the prison industrial complex, that is Wall Street and these big financial institutions. And what we need to understand is that real change never takes place from the top on down. It is only when millions of people stand up for justice. And that is what the Sunrise Movement is all about. That is what you are fighting for right now. You're fighting to make sure that, among many other things, the planet that we live in and our kids and grandchildren will live in is a healthy and habitable planet. But to do that, we're going to have to take on the greed and the lies and the irresponsibility of the fossil fuel industry. That's what we're going to have to do. We can't address the crisis of climate change unless we take on the fossil fuel industry in this country and around the world, because this obviously is not an American issue. It is a global issue. And as I think all of you know, we are making progress as a result of your efforts in college and university. After college and university, boards of directors of those schools are divesting from the fossil fuel industry. We are working with Vice President Biden on a program to see a very significant increase in energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And we want to see the United States lead the world in this effort, because we have to bring people together. So let me just conclude by saying this. We need right now to transform this country in so many respects. And we will not do it unless there is a political revolution. There will not be a political revolution unless millions of young people participate in the political process and stand up and fight for justice. And the very good news is that the younger generation in America today is, in my view, the most progressive generation in the history of this country. Your generation is anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia, anti-xenophobia, anti-religious bigotry, and your generation understands that we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. That is the very good news. And it's something that all of us, you and your parents and everybody else, should be very proud of. But here is the bad news. Your generation does not vote in as high in numbers as it should. So in the next three and a half months, as we move toward the presidential election, it is absolutely imperative that we defeat Donald Trump and that we elect progressive candidates from the local, state, and federal level. And we need your help to do that. If young people come out in large numbers, I am absolutely confident that Donald Trump will be history and that we're going to elect progressives all across this country. But talk is cheap, action is what matters. So I urge you to reach out to your friends, reach out to your neighbors, your fellow students. Let's get involved. Let's stand up for justice. Let's transform this country and have a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the few. So Sunrise, thank you so much for what you're doing. I look forward to working with you in the months and years to come. Thank you all very much.
Hi.
And next up, we got Cori Bush, running
Hi,
for Missouri's 1st Congressional District.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being on this call. Look, I am so energized right now. Let me go back. Naomi, my goodness, thank you. You know, I look, the fire that you have, that's what we need all across this country. So let me just say, if having people like you, this is what we need. So in 20 years, I can't wait to see who you are. Let me just throw that out. I support the Sunrise Movement. You know, I'm your candidate, Cori Bush, your candidate for U.S. Congress for Missouri's 1st District to represent St. Louis, but to also affect this entire nation, just like our great Senator Sanders. You know, let me take it back a little bit. I hope you all are paying attention, first of all, to what you are doing, and looking at the example. You have Senator Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders on this call, who was an organizer of CORE. I don't know if all of you remember, if you all know that, but back in the 60s, he was organizing with CORE, and not knowing where tomorrow would lead, not knowing that in 2020, he would have been running for president and he would have touched an entire world. People are talking about him as the #1 politician in Argentina. Like, that's how great the work is that he's done. And it started way back in the 60s with him organizing over tenants' rights, basically. And so think the work that you're doing right now, don't take that for granted. I just need to pour a little bit of inspiration into you, just to make sure that you all know that not one day, not 1 minute, not one word of the work that you're doing right now is for naught. None of it is in vain, because we will have a better life. Look, our ecosystem will be better. We will have clean water, clean air. Our children's children will have a great life because of the work that you are doing. So I say thank you. The world says thank you for the work you youth organizers are doing. And you know, Senator Sanders is that great example. He cares about regular people like us. And so I'm so glad that not only did he do the work then, but he also decided to stay engaged and to push up. He's pushing up more. He said, it's not about me, it's about us. I'm going to push up more to be able to push this thing and to see real change in our world that has to continue on. We have to duplicate ourselves, duplicate this energy, and change our community. The experience I've had with youth organizers across the nation, but even locally, from the Ferguson movement up until now, with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests, you know, right now we're seeing something a little bit different. We have so many youth on the ground that are organizing, that are fearless, that are out there. We're getting maced together. You know, we're taking those baton blows together, but then we get right back up the next day and we're fighting even more because Black Lives Matter. We're fighting even more because we have to stand up to make sure that power knows that the people won't stop until we get justice. And so that's who we have to be. I will always be an organizer. We get tired, yes, we do, but the work doesn't end because there's always a fight. We keep fighting because there is a fight. And so that's what you all are doing. So thank you for that work. Don't look at any small steps. Every step is a step forward, even if it looks like it's taking you back, because you don't stop. That's how it doesn't take you back. Don't stop. Keep that fire and keep pushing. And thank you for supporting candidates like me. I'm a Black woman talking about climate change. That's not an easy thing. That's not something that people want to talk about, but we got to make sure that communities that are most affected by what's happening in with these coal companies and what's happening in our communities, that Black and brown communities are disproportionately affected. And we have to talk about it, but we have to talk about it and make sure that we organize and galvanize Black and brown communities, because we're the ones that are fighting. We're the ones that have the issues, and we have to survive. So what we need you to do, I'm asking you to support the Sunrise the new student organizing program. We got to support it. We need more leaders to come up. We got to train and move forward. We got to train and go, so come in, get trained, learn, educate yourselves, and then go and do the work and continue to do the work. Sunrise is about to has already started actually having phone banks for me. And I know that that's going to come up. Someone else is going to talk about that. But let me say this, we have 13 days, a little less than 13 days to make a difference in this race. If I win this seat in 13 days, a Tuesday coming up in less than 2 weeks, if I win this seat, I will not just be fighting for a single issue. I'm fighting for everything that holds us back, every marginalized community, every issue that hurts us, for all of our human rights issues. We got to go for it. And I'm going to go for it, because if I don't, people die. And so that's why I need your help. So if you will give me 2 good weeks, if you will give me 13 days of work, 13 days of time, your energy, your talent, and your treasure, I promise you, I will give you 2 years of hardcore work, like straight up from the streets of Ferguson, where I took the gunshots, where I took the mace, and I took the beating, where I took all of that and came right back out. If you fight for me now, I will fight for you in Congress. 13 days. I need your help. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you for that. Wow, my heart. I'm about to phone bank for you so hard. Okay, great. Next up, we got an awesome organizer, an awesome Sunrise Movement organizer, Eva, that's going to talk more about the program.
Hi, thanks, Naomi. And I also want to say thank you so much, Cori and Bernie. It's been a pleasure and an honor to hear from all of you today. My name is Eva, and I'm a member of the Sunrise St. Louis Hub. We endorsed Cori back in December 2019 because while the incumbent here has been in office for 10 terms, he has done little to address the problems that St. Louisans face, whereas Cori has been standing up for justice in the streets since the Ferguson uprising, and she understands how her progressive policies intersect to achieve racial, climate, and economic justice. Now, with only 2 weeks left till the primary, we need all hands on deck. Phone banking is the most effective way to reach voters during this pandemic, and we need you all online making calls. I know some of you may be nervous or scared to phone bank for the first time. I definitely was. I remember the first time I phone banked for Jamal Bowman, I was worried that I didn't know enough about his policies or I'd say something wrong. But after being on the training and after just being on the Zoom call with other young people who are so energized about electing amazing candidates, I felt so much better. Anyone can phone bank from anywhere. You don't even have to live in District 1, and we provide all the information you need to make these calls. So yes, you need to sign up for the Wide Awake Leadership Program. But guess what? School doesn't start for a few weeks, so you definitely have this time to phone bank. So invite your friends, your family, your coworkers to sign up using this link in the chat right now to phone bank for racial and climate justice champion Cori Bush. Again, we will be dropping that link in the chat. Right now, while it's at the top of all of our minds, I challenge you all to sign up for not 1 shift, but 2 shifts, or even 3 shifts or 5 shifts using the link in the chat. This is 2 shifts of your time for 2 years of hard work Cori will do for us in Congress. Teamwork makes the dream work, and if we all sign up right now, I know that we can make this victory a reality. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all on a phone bank soon.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Eva, Cori, and Bernie. We are grateful to people's champions like the 3 of you and can't wait to help elect Cori Bush as Missouri Congressional District's 1 next representative. That's lit. Before we go, we're going to ask y'all one last time to sign up for Sunrise's historic Wide Awake Leadership Program. We're posting the form in the channel once again. So if you missed it the first time, it's going to be right here. And what we want to leave you with is this. The choice is yours. Bernie may be out of the race, but even if he had won, we always knew our work would only have just begun when we took the White House. Now, we can choose to take the course of history in our own hands and keep organizing together in solidarity with students across the country, or we don't. We can choose to take action, or we don't. Whatever we choose, the clear reality is that if we don't act, no one will. It really is up to us. And we're ready to rise to that responsibility with you all. Thank y'all so much for being on this call tonight. And I hope y'all have a really awesome night. Bye.